So I'm glad we bought the good clothes hangers this time. You can't hardly buy a good clothes hanger. Those plastic ones are pow right, and then nothing makes me more angry than pulling out a shirt and you get sharded in the eye with a plastic clothes hanger. It makes me almost want to cuss Walmart. Back to our so where you know, IBS and diverticulitis and Crohn's disease and ADHD, heck, autism. Where did all this stuff come from? Did it just magically appear? It seems like since 1974, 1975, when I was born, the Earth has just gotten sick, and it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But I mean, mental health disorders. Think about how much we've gone downhill with mental health disorders. It didn't help any that they did away with insane asylums during the Reagan administration. A lot of people don't know that. You know, there's no place for the severely mentally ill to be. And then they vote, and then they get voted for, and then, you know, it's happening. See it? Feminization of males. Think about that. I mean, let's just be real. Hormonal problems, men and women, masculine girls, feminine boys. Y'all know there's a reason for it. It didn't just happen. Depression. How many people are depressed now? How many people do you ever remember being depressed, you know, back when you first started thinking? You know, it's amazing. Autoimmune disorders, kidney disease. Yeah, why are all these people having non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? People who don't even take Tylenol or anything, and all of a sudden and why are so many farmers the ones that are sick, and people in rural areas? Used to be the rural people were the healthy people. You go out to the Amazon, the healthiest people there are the people that are way far away from the Iquitos. You want to see sick people, go to the Iquitos, where the town is, where the smog is, where you know, whatever it is. But for some reason, the farmers are sick around here. What's the link? Ooh, I did that. No, you did that. She's gotten good with a PowerPoint. What's the link? Hint, it didn't come from nature. It didn't just happen. Now we get to here. Okay, who is Monsanto? Now, let's see. They were founded in 1901, and they made Sweeten Low, saccharin. It's flagship product, all right? Then, in 1929, they came out with a beautiful thing called PCBs. Now, they made them. PCBs, of course, have you heard? I mean, you know what PCBs are, right? They're basically sitting in the bottom of almost every lake bed in the country. They're sitting in people's, you know, colons. They're sitting in people's small intestines. They're sitting in people's fatty tissue. And in 1940s, they produced basically styrofoam, right? Monsanto sounds like, and they're amazing. They're making some amazing things that are really helping the world. And then in 1945, they decided to make something called Agent Orange, right? They made it intentionally, right? Agent Orange can't go away. Matter of fact, I know a man who called the order to ship all the Agent Orange from the Anniston Army Depot here in Anniston, Alabama, which is one of the biggest Superfund sites in the world, all the way across the country to South Carolina, where it was floated out on a huge barge and dumped into the ocean. And the governor of Georgia banned them from ever coming back and pitched a fit about it. 56, they refused to purchase Monsanto's hydraulic fluid after they said that the test showed that it had definite liver damage. Now, it was too bad for the Navy. As y'all know, our government isn't overly careful. Monsanto, they ended up in 76, that's actually not true, it was actually introduced in 74. They introduced Roundup. Have you heard about Roundup? You know, the stuff that literally, you know, you have the ambulance chasers on the television saying, hey, if you've got leukemia, call us. And yet, you can still go to Walmart down here and buy literally enough of it to kill an entire population.
Yeah, it's banned in most European countries already.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, just wait. We're going to go on a tear. And in 84, Monsanto pays millions to Vietnam veterans because they, you know, are all suffering from Agent Orange. I actually know one of the men who was one of the most influential people in the lawsuits. He's from Gadsden, Alabama, and there's a place called Camp Cyber where he was exposed. If he didn't sit in a sauna for an hour a day, he literally couldn't make it through a day. He passed away early too. Monsanto takes fifth among U.S. corporations in EPA's toxic release inventory, even though they love them. And then they start introducing the bovine growth hormone to increase milk production, even though there were so many health concerns. Here we have 1996, where Monsanto introduces Roundup Ready soybeans, and they basically the first genetically engineered pesticide promoting seed, and GE resistant, insect resistant cotton. So we're talking about cotton, your soybeans, wheat, and sugar beets. Scientists find that aspartame, the artificial sweetener developed by Monsanto's subsidiary, could pose health risks to consumers, things like brain tumors. At 98, Canadian government scientists accused Monsanto of bribe attempts in obtaining approval of the drug, or basically that hormone for the cattle, in Canada. Whoops, we can't bribe the Canadians as easy as we can bribe the Americans. They got caught. Then, they did the same thing in Indonesia. In 2002, they were fined $1.5 million for bribing Indonesian officials to skip an environmental assessment of its genetically engineered cotton. And then 2003, Anniston, Alabama, you know where that is? You drove through it. Yeah, I've had a business there for 30 years. I'm sorry, we're in Oxford. That's a big deal. If you're in Oxford, you're in Oxford. If you're in Anniston, you're in Anniston. I'm serious. I'm not joking. I bought a house one time. I couldn't believe it. I bought a home in White Plains, Alabama. Sounds pretty, doesn't it? It was a beautiful place, but guess what my address was? I couldn't believe it. Anniston, Alabama. I about fell out. I'm serious. I listed my house for sale. Soon after we figured out that it was Anniston, and then we hear that Monsanto and Solution agreed to pay over $700 million to more than 20,000 residents, which is the majority of the population of Anniston, over widespread health problems from PCB contamination. So they actually got caught and actually lost the lawsuit. There were there's still two-headed fish in Chocolaca Creek. You guys are literally sitting above. One of the reasons that Mount Cheahaw, this state park, is not as popular as it should be is because it sits on top of a waste field of PCBs and contamination, right under us. I mean, as soon as you get down the mountain.
The fish also have cancers growing on their body, on the side, like a brain.
Like another brain.
And it may be on the head, it may be on the back. I mean, there's some messed up fish in that water.
It's crazy. And I know a lady, one of my patients used to swim with her friends in Snow Creek in Oxford, which is down river from all this. And they would swim and play, and they would marvel at how the water at different times of the day would be different colors. All of her friends are dead. She had 5 types of cancer and beat 4 of them, and was beating the 5th one, trying to beat it. In 2006, a judge rules that the USDA violated the Endangered Species Act by failing to conduct even minimal investigation of whether or not genetically engineered farmer crops could harm endangered species. Are we surprised?
No.
Who owns Monsanto? Like literally the devil? You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have a pitchfork because it's pretty evil. In the 20s, there were numerous lawsuits were filed claiming that its weed killer Roundup, which contained glyphosate, caused cancer. And again, against this backdrop, in 2016, Bayer, if you know what, if all else fails, sell it to the Germans, right? Bayer, a German chemical and pharmaceutical company, announced that it was purchasing Monsanto in a deal valued at more than $60 billion. Our government helped that happen, by the way. In 2018, the acquisition was finalized, and shortly thereafter, the first Roundup lawsuit was decided in favor of the plaintiff. Whoops. Faced with the possibility of extensive legal liabilities, Bayer saw its value decline, and later that year, Monsanto was folded into Bayer's crop science division. In 2020, Bayer agreed to pay more than $10 billion to settle claims regarding Roundup. There's $14 billion sitting in an account somewhere just to pay people who sue them because they've gotten sick from Roundup. Yet it's still on the shelves, right? How much glyphosate? About 280 million pounds of glyphosate are applied to an average of 298 million acres of cropland annually.
Wow.
1974, glyphosate was first registered for use. In 1974, glyphosate was one of the most widely used herbicides in the United States, and people apply it in agriculture and forestry, yada yada. Look at this. In 1992, let's look at it. That was how much we had as far as usage of glyphosate, right? Look at today. Actually, that's not today, that's 2011. That's 11 years ago. They won't even show you what's going on now. Now notice there's at the concentration in the heart of America. Pretty sad. 80%, by the way, almost everyone in this room has unsafe levels of glyphosate in your system right now. Did you hear what I said? 80% of you guys have unsafe levels of glyphosate in your system. Right now. They did the studies came out, you have it. 75% of air and rain samples contain Monsanto's Roundup. It's in the air, it's in the rain, it's in possibly you, and I know it was me because I have the labs to prove it. You look at this. In France, 99% of the French population has high levels of glyphosate. Right? Now, guess what's banned in France now? Glyphosate. Guess what you can't even buy from France and that doesn't have glyphosate? What's so popular from France, other than the cheese and the weirdness? Wine. You can't buy a French wine that doesn't have glyphosate. You almost can't buy a California wine that doesn't have glyphosate. So look at this. I want to show you since 1974 or whenever these show you these charts. Let's look at what's happened since the introduction of just glyphosate. We're just looking at glyphosate right now. Look at obesity. Look at the numbers. Age-adjusted deaths due to obesity from glyphosate. Look at that. Have you ever seen such a parallel? Diabetes. Look at diabetes and glyphosate. Look at kidney cancer and glyphosate. Sleep disorders and glyphosate. You know, were we born with masks and hoses coming out? You know, think about how many people are living in just a pure Hades as far as their sleep. They're hooked up to machines. They believe, oh, I have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea, sleep apnea. I hear everyone say, I have sleep apnea. Is that natural? Did people have sleep apnea 20 years ago?
Nope.
Much less 50 years ago. No. They didn't have sleep apnea very often. And we weren't born to use masks and hoses and, machines that go, all night long while you're trying to sleep. While your poor wife, I can't imagine, or husband, tries to sleep beside you. Yet, and also it's strange that there's so many deficiencies, certain deficiencies that just go hand in hand with sleep apnea. Glyphosate, y'all. Liver cancer and glyphosate. Thyroid cancer and glyphosate. These charts, I'll give you this PowerPoint. This is all data. This is all raw, pure, hardcore, unadulterated data that you can find yourself on. You can go to Dr. Google and find all kinds of things. Celiac disease and glyphosate. Look at that one. Look at the difference. Since 1990. This is just since 1990. Look at the incidence. And also they noticed that when glyphosate started becoming used on wheat, how much it shot up. Guess what? What is Cheerios? What'd you say?
Glyphosate.
It's death. It's full of glyphosate. Cheerios have, you flip over Cheerios and look down at the bottom and say this contains a bioengineered food ingredient. Yeah.
But it's good for your heart.
Yeah, but it's great for your heart, except that it's not. Anxiety. Now let's start getting personal. Anxiety and glyphosate. How many people do you know that suffer from anxiety? How many of us don't even suffer from that? How many here? Everyone, to some degree. In IBS and glyphosate. Look at the numbers. Since 1990, the increase, the use of glyphosate is completely concurrent. Autism and glyphosate. Y'all, look at that. Look. Since 1990. Look at autism in 1990. Look at the baseline. And now look at this only goes to 2009, y'all. They wouldn't do, this is all the data that you can get eked out of anywhere. You know why, don't you? Because Monsanto doesn't want to pay you any more of that $14 billion that they don't have to pay you for the fact that they killed you, your family, your dog. 2010, I hope they got that dog. Breast cancer and glyphosate, y'all. Look, once again, just since 1991, look at the increase. Alzheimer's and glyphosate. How many people have relatives that passed away or are dealing with now Alzheimer's or dementia? Yeah. Everyone here. I had two grandparents pass away with dementia. One on one side, one on the other. One was nice, one was mean. Glyphosate is used on the majority of corn, cotton, wheat, soybeans, and sugar beets, and it's labeled as non-GMO. Glyphosate is used as a drying agent. It's applied after the crop is harvested. Had a young lady yesterday, or a day before, I don't know when it was, we had a phone consultation, and I was getting my van washed, and we started talking, and she started talking about her son who has ADHD. Oh, he has hereditary ADHD. Yeah. And so he has hereditary ADHD. And so he's born without a kidney. And so I said, well, where do you live? Where have you guys, been raised? I said, well, we used to live in a trailer at my mom's, and it had mold in it, which that was another set of issues. And then we've been living at my mom's property in a house that we, had built or in a new trailer, I don't know what it was. And I said, okay. I said, now, what about Roundup? And all of a sudden her voice went into an entire octave lower. What do you mean Roundup? And I said, do you guys use Roundup? And she's like, my mother uses it every day. She keeps bees, y'all. So honey, you better know where it's coming from. This young lady has a son, severely ADHD, who has one kidney. And we can theorize, since she's lived on the property where her mother is, they're farmers, once again, that this son is literally, we're trying to get him to get a glyphosate test. We have him on a formula. We have him on the EDS, environmental defense system. But it's absolutely, it hurts you. It really hurts you to know something so clearly, and for someone to not have a clue. And then you have to convince them. Then you have to educate them. And she's like, well, I need all of those. I need your PowerPoint just so that I can talk to my mother. And I said, and she says, my mother's a Christian. I said, well, does she have discernment? Tell her to pray. Tell her to pray for some discernment and read the information and then get back with us, because she needs to quit. She either needs to quit using her, or you need to get that boy away from her. Also, this is kind of spooky. Glyphosate's then served to you in your meals, made into the clothes you wear, cotton, remember, fed to the animals you eat, and ends up in your tap water, lakes, and rivers. If you take collagen or consume gelatin or any other animal product that's not organic, it's fed GMO glyphosate-ridden food that's then transferred to you. It was never supposed to accumulate, and it does, and it has been since 1974. Once glyphosate gets in your body, it's recognized by your body as glycine, which is an essential amino acid found in your cells, and then it replaces the glycine with this glycine lookalike, and then replication happens. So your body can replicate the glyphosate thinking it's glycine, and you need glycine. Look at this. We're going to start getting into some studies here. Now, I'm a believer, and I love data, and I love that we have in natural medicine now so much. We have a plethora in almost every case of data supporting what we're saying. Here's where they talk about Roundup in rat liver and adipose tissue. They showed that glyphosate was causing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in the little critters and also in humans, autism and learning disabilities. Possible link between autism and glyphosate acting as a glycine mimetic. Once again, replacing glycine. Birth defects, low birth weight, premature birth. I'm going to tell y'all how we got into all this and how this study even came about. Glyphosate and adverse pregnancy outcomes, systematic review of observational studies. See, it's very difficult to get the data together, but they're putting it together. Too late, but they're putting it together. Birth defects, gut bacterial disruption. Probiotics. How many people here know the importance of probiotics? Everyone, right? If you don't, learn it, because probiotics are imperative to your health, to your immune system, to your T cell, everything. It's vital for your B vitamin production. It's so important that you have the probiotics. But yet, glyphosate wreaks havoc on your probiotics. It causes embryonic development failure and alters metabolic pathways and gut microbiota functionality in non-target species. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. Glyphosate was not supposed to cross the blood-brain barrier, but it does. It's in your brain. It's in people's brains. This is a neat article. I've got to keep going. Glyphosate found in childhood vaccines. It's because of the gelatin and other ingredients, and some people even theorize that they're